Okay, so today I'm sorry, I lost my slideshow. Okay, real quick. Hi, um, my name is Alexa Thomas, and today I'm going to be discussing my week 4 case connection. So I'm just going to quickly share this right here, this little presentation that I made. Okay, so the first case that I looked at was case 2. And the first part of case 2 was to discuss how glucose is regulated in the following tissues. So the first one is liver. The hormone insulin regulates the liver's uptake of glucose. Insulin is released as a reaction to high blood sugar levels, and this encourages the liver to absorb glucose and store it as glycogen. On the other hand, glycogen is produced in response to low blood sugar levels, and this activates the breakdown of glycogen and releases glucose throughout your bloodstream. The second is skeletal muscles uptake. And in skeletal muscles uptake of glucose, it's controlled by a system that is sort of similar to the liver's. Here, muscle contractions during exercise cause the GLUT4 transporters to move to the cell membrane of the muscle cells. And this makes it possible for glucose to enter muscle cells and can be used as an energy source when engaging in exercise. Therefore, through this process, your muscles become really good at absorbing glucose when you are engaging in exercise. The next is the brain. So the brain's uptake of glucose is not known to be dependent on insulin as the other two are. However, certain glucose transporters control the movement of glucose into neurons and across the blood-brain barrier. The brain uses glucose as one of the main energy sources, and it regulates glucose uptake closely to meet neuronal energy needs, so any type of energy needs that your brain may have. The next is adipose tissue. And adipose tissue's uptake of glucose is controlled by insulin as well as the liver and the skeletal muscle. And just like it is in skeletal muscle, insulin increases the movement of GLUT4 transporters to the cell membrane, and this greatly encourages the uptake of glucose by adipocytes. And in this adipose tissue, glucose is either stored as triglycerides or it's used for creating new energy. So the next part of this question is the glucose uptake in normal tissue versus tumor cells. So tumor cells in glioblastoma usually take up more glucose than the surrounding healthy tissues. And the rapid growth of the tumor is helped by this increased uptake. Here, the invasive tumor is at a greater advantage because the rapidly dividing cancer cells have much higher energy needs than the normal healthy brain tissue. And the tumor's increased uptake and metabolism of glucose give it plenty of energy and the building blocks it needs for uncontrolled growth of cells. So it's not an advantage to the healthy tissue, but that's a really great advantage to the tumor cells. And because of this, it helps the tumor grow and penetrate and expand into surrounding healthy tissues. The next part of this question is modifications that may have occurred. So the first one is increased expression of glucose transporters. And in order to increase their availability to absorb glucose, cancer cells may greatly express glucose transporters. And this is even seen in situations where the surrounding healthy tissues may not require such high levels of glucose. The next is changes to signaling pathways. So elevated uptake and use of glucose in cancer cells may come from mutations in the signaling pathways related to glucose metabolism. And then the last is increased activity of glycolysis. Oh my goodness. Sorry, so sorry. Just gonna go back here. Increased activity in glycolysis. And a lot of what I read in terms of this was the Warburg effect, which was really new to me. I'd never heard of that before, but it's a change in metabolism to increase glycolysis. And this is often seen in cancer cells all over the body. And this change helps with faster development and spread of the cancer by allowing greater amounts of glucose use for energy. So just overall expansion of cancer cells. And then together, these modifications improve the uptake and metabolism of glucose in cancer cells, which promotes their rapid growth and survival, as I have stated many times now. And numerous cancer cells, including glioblastoma, like the one in this case, exhibit the metabolic modifications, these metabolic modifications. And this is frequently used in cancer imaging methods like PET scans, as in this case. And in PET scans, it uses a slightly radioactive glucose tracer to detect where any type of cancer is, track the tumor activity to help better all different types of treatment options and looking forward in the future in terms of the cancer. The next case that I looked at was case 3. And case 3 has 4 questions that I'm going to quickly run through. So the first one is, I really like to take long walks. Will I still be able to do this with my friends? Long walks with friends will not be restricted by a muscle glycogen phosphorylase deficiency. However, it could affect the ability to engage in intensive little bouts of exercise. Some examples of these are sprinting and like really heavy lifting. Walking is mostly an aerobic activity that uses a combination of fat and glycogen as fuel. So walking is an aerobic exercise that's very moderate in intensity. It's nothing crazy. Due to this, your body can still use fat as an alternative energy source to power this type of exercise. And to make sure you have the right nourishment and power for these kinds of activities, it could be useful to keep an eye out on your energy levels and definitely communicate with your doctor about ways to go about continuing your long walks and continuing exercise and things like that. The next is, do I have to worry about having reduced muscle glycogen stores? And although the deficiency affects the breakdown of glycogen, decreased glycogen stores are not always the outcome. When engaging in high-intensity activities, for instance, the problem is more with using the stored glycogen for energy. With that being said, you can still maintain sufficient levels of glycogen for daily tasks or mild exercise. And obviously, the best way to go about this is with changes in your diet. It's actually really important in terms of this question. The next is, as a result of this deficiency, will I need to get up at night and eat to maintain my blood glucose levels. Preserving blood glucose levels depends heavily on glycogenolysis, which is the process of breaking down glycogen into glucose. This particularly applies during extended fasts like those that occur throughout the night. It may be difficult to mobilize stored glycogen for glucose release with a muscle glycogen phosphorylase deficiency occasionally, but it's not always the case. In this case, it's kind of important to just have a little well-balanced snack before bed to avoid any type of hypoglycemia during the night. But obviously it depends on the severity of each case. Everybody is different. So it's important to best know your condition, best communicate with your doctor, anything like that. The next is, do I need to worry about producing excessive lactate during intense anaerobic exercise? And a lack of muscle glycogen phosphorylase may cause the production of more lactate when engaging in vigorous aerobic activity. The body may rely, or in this case, the body may rely on the alternative pathways as a result of the impaired breakdown of glycogen. Lactate can be produced in excess as a result of this, of course. However, this can definitely be controlled by exercising correctly and progressively increasing the intensity of your workouts. So don't start with crazy intense workouts. Start with slow little walks and then work your way up to that sprinting, work your way up to those heavy lifting, heavy weights. And then just kind of as a wrap up, although certain aspects of physical activity and energy metabolism may be impacted by the deficiency in muscle glycogen phosphorylase, you will still be able to control and make adjustments to better your way of life. Of course, it's a long, tough process, but anybody can do it. Work your be in contact with your doctor, research and know your body, healthy diets, increasing that physical activity, like I said. It's rough, it's a long process, but it can be done. And then that is it for My Case Connections. Thank you so much.